Hey, and welcome back to JBC English Learning Academy. My name is Laura, and I'm here to guide you on your journey to clear, confident, and natural English. If you truly love your parents, then like the video, subscribe to the channel, keep watching the video, and comment on how much you love parents. Your support truly helps this channel grow. Alright, take a deep breath. Relax, and let's begin today's session. I want to take you into a quiet morning, a morning that feels simple, warm, and slow, the kind of morning that invites you to breathe a little deeper and listen a little closer, because this is where our story begins. And this is where your English learning journey and your positive thinking journey meet, like two small rivers that finally join together to become something stronger. Imagine a soft light entering the room, a gentle light that grows slowly and touches everything around you, and as it touches the world, it touches your mind too, giving you a small but important question. What if today could be different? This question may sound simple, but sometimes simple questions have the power to open doors inside us. So let's walk into this story together and let this slow moment guide your English practice, your thinking, and your heart. Let me tell you about Sam, a young man who lived in a small, peaceful town surrounded by soft hills and long, quiet roads. Sam was like many people, kind, gentle, curious, but often unsure about life, unsure about his own thoughts, unsure about his future. He had dreams that made him smile when he was alone, dreams about traveling, dreams about starting something new, dreams about becoming a better version of himself. But there was also something else inside him, something that made those dreams feel distant, something heavy like a shadow. It was not fear exactly. It was more like a habit of thinking that every challenge was too big, every problem was too strong, every dream was too far away. Sam often woke up thinking that life was too difficult, that he was always one step behind, that good things were for other people, not for him. He didn't speak these thoughts out loud, but they lived in his mind like quiet whispers that pulled him down. Maybe you have felt something like this too. Many learners, many people, no matter where they come from, carry these thoughts without even noticing. Thoughts that say, I can't do this, or I'm not good enough, or I always fail. But something special happened to Sam one morning, and this moment became the beginning of his change, the beginning of his positive thinking journey, and you will walk with him, step by step, as we practice English and learn something deeper about life. On that morning, Sam opened his eyes slowly and saw the first light of day touching the curtains. He stayed in bed for a moment, listening to the quiet sound of the wind outside. Something felt different, not loud, not dramatic, just quietly different. The air felt calmer, and for some reason, Sam didn't immediately think about the problems he normally worried about. Instead, he felt a small curiosity. He sat up, stretched his arms, and took a slow breath, the kind of breath you take when you want to reset everything inside you. And in that breath, Sam realized something simple but powerful. He had been giving too much space to negative thoughts. He didn't judge himself for it. He didn't feel angry about it. He just noticed it, and noticing something is often the first step to change. He whispered to himself, maybe today I can try something different. The words were quiet, but they felt real. This is the moment I want you to focus on, because this moment is also for you. When you learn English, when you listen to new words, when you try to speak, sometimes your mind brings negative thoughts too, My English is bad. I will make mistakes. People will not understand me. But what if, like Sam, you could simply notice these thoughts and gently choose a different one? You don't need to fight the negative thought. You just need to offer your mind a softer one, a kinder one, like I am learning, or I am growing, or I am trying, and that is enough. This is positive thinking, not a magical belief that life is perfect, but a gentle decision to guide your thoughts toward hope instead of fear. Sam stood up and walked to his small kitchen. The sunlight grew brighter now, and it painted the walls with warm gold. He made a cup of tea, sat by the window, and watched the world outside. A few birds sat on the roof across the street, and their soft chirping made him smile without thinking. The town was still waking up, and there was something comforting about that. As he sat there, Sam thought about the last few weeks. He remembered how tired he felt, how negative his thoughts had been, how easily he became frustrated. It wasn't because his life was terrible. It was because he had been focusing on the wrong things. Every day, he noticed only what went wrong. He forgot to see what went right. He forgot to appreciate small joys. He forgot to be kind to himself. And now, as he sat in the warm morning light, he wondered what would happen if he changed the story he told himself every day. You see, positive thinking is really about storytelling. Your mind tells you a story about who you are, about what you can do, about what your life can become. And sometimes, you don't even realize that the story has become negative. But the good news is that you can rewrite the story, even slowly, even softly. That's what Sam decided to do. He didn't say, I will be positive forever. No. He just said, today I will try. And that small choice opened a door inside him. As Sam continued drinking his tea, he remembered something his grandmother used to tell him. She would say, your thoughts are like seeds. You can choose which ones to water. As a child, he never understood what she meant. But now, as an adult, he suddenly did. Every day, he had been watering the seeds of worry, fear, and doubt. No wonder they grew so fast. But he had forgotten that he could also water seeds of hope, gratitude, and courage. Positive thinking was not about ignoring the negative. It was about choosing what to grow. And this idea, this simple image of seeds, touched him deeply. Maybe it touches you too. Maybe today you can start watering a new seed inside your mind, one that helps you feel calm and strong as you learn English, one that tells you, I can try again, one that reminds you that progress grows slowly but surely, like a plant reaching for the sun. Sam finished his tea and decided to take a short walk. He stepped outside, and the fresh air felt cool on his face. The world felt more alive now. Children were walking to school, small shops were opening, and people greeted each other with friendly nods. As he walked down the street, Sam noticed things he usually ignored, the bright flowers near the bakery, the smell of fresh bread in the air, the gentle laughter from a small group of neighbors talking by the corner. These small details made him feel connected to life again. Normally, he walked with his head down, thinking about problems, thinking about the next task, thinking about everything except the present moment. But now he let himself be present. He paid attention. And paying attention changed the way he felt. When you learn English, presence helps you too. When you listen carefully, when you speak slowly, when you focus on the moment instead of the fear, your mind becomes calm and learning becomes easier. Positive thinking begins with awareness, awareness of the world, awareness of your thoughts, awareness of your feelings. As Sam continued walking, he reached a small park. He sat on a wooden bench under a tall tree and watched the sunlight dance through the leaves. He felt a strange mixture of peace and excitement, as if something inside him was waking up after a long sleep. He remembered his old dreams, the dreams he used to push away because he thought they were too difficult. He wanted to travel, to learn new skills, to meet new people, to explore new places. But every time he thought about these dreams, a voice inside him said, "You can't do that." And Sam believed that voice. He believed it for years. But now, sitting under the tree, he asked himself a new question. What if that voice was wrong? What if his dreams were not impossible? What if he had more strength than he believed? And what if the first step toward a better life was simply thinking differently? That question opened something inside him, something small but strong, like a spark. He watched the leaves move gently, and he felt grateful for the simple beauty of the moment. Gratitude is one of the strongest tools of positive thinking. When you practice gratitude, even in small ways, your mind begins to shift from what is missing to what is present, from what is wrong to what is right. And when your mind shifts, your life shifts too. Sam closed his eyes and took a slow breath. He felt grateful for the sunlight, for the quiet park, for the new thoughts forming inside him. And in that moment, he realized something important. Positive thinking was not about pretending everything was perfect. It was about giving himself a chance to see the good again. Sometimes, life makes us forget the good. But the good is always there, waiting for us to notice it. As he sat under the tree, Sam made a gentle promise to himself. It was not a loud promise, not a dramatic one. It was quiet, soft, and honest. He said, "I will try to guide my thoughts. I will try to be kinder to myself. I will try to look for the good." That promise became the beginning of his transformation. It didn't change everything immediately, but it changed his direction. And direction is more important than speed. When you choose the right direction, even the smallest steps can take you far. And this story, this journey of Sam's positive thinking, is also your practice journey in English. As you listen, as you speak, as you understand more and more, you are also changing direction. You are choosing growth. You are choosing courage. And that choice matters. With one last deep breath, Sam stood up from the bench and began walking home. The day felt different now, brighter, softer, full of possibility. And as he walked, he whispered something to himself, something simple but powerful. Today is a new beginning. And maybe as you listen to this story, today can be a new beginning for you too. A new beginning in your English learning. A new beginning in your thinking. A new beginning in the way you speak to yourself. Because every positive change starts with one thought, one moment, one quiet promise. And this is yours. When Sam returned home from his morning walk, he felt lighter, as if something inside him had shifted just a little, like a window slowly opening to let in fresh air. But he also felt a quiet challenge rising inside him. A challenge he did not fully understand yet, because change, even small change, always brings a test, a moment when the mind pushes back, and he knew that if he wanted to practice positive thinking, if he wanted to guide his thoughts in a new way, he would need patience, kindness, and a gentle strength that he was still learning to trust. He stepped into his small living room, took off his shoes, and sat on the couch, letting the silence of the house wrap around him. At first, the silence felt peaceful, but slowly, his old thoughts began to return. They came quietly, like soft footsteps in a hallway. Thoughts like, "You will not keep this change," and "This feeling will not last," and "Who do you think you are to imagine a better life?" These thoughts were not loud, but they were familiar, and sometimes familiar things feel more powerful than new ones. Sam closed his eyes and tried to breathe calmly, but his mind wandered, jumping from one worry to another. This is the first challenge of the quiet mind. When you begin to think positively, your old thoughts try to pull you back. They do not do this because they are evil. They do it because they are habits, and habits do not let go easily. Sam felt a small wave of doubt move through him, and for a moment, he wondered if his morning of hope had been only a temporary feeling, something that would disappear as quickly as it arrived. He felt disappointed, almost frustrated with himself, but then he remembered an idea he read once. Your mind is like the sky. Thoughts are like clouds. They come and go, but the sky stays clear behind them. He repeated this idea in his mind, slowly and softly, trying to imagine his thoughts as clouds moving across a blue sky. Some clouds were dark. Some were light. Some passed quickly. Some stayed longer. But none of them were the sky itself. And as Sam imagined this, he began to understand that he didn't need to fight his negative thoughts. He only needed to watch them, to allow them to move without letting them control his direction. This realization calmed him. Maybe positive thinking was not a battle. Maybe it was more like a gentle practice, a practice of noticing and choosing, noticing a thought and then choosing a better one. He stood up from the couch and walked to his small desk by the window. There was a notebook on the desk that he hadn't used in months. He opened it to a blank page, picked up a pen, and wrote one simple question at the top. What am I thinking right now? At first, he didn't know what to write, but after a moment, the words began to flow. He wrote about his doubt, his fear that positive thinking would not last, his worry that he might fail again. He wrote honestly, without judgment. Then he wrote another question. What do I want to think instead? And slowly, carefully, he wrote new thoughts. I am learning. I am trying. It is okay to grow slowly. I can choose hope. He read the words again and again, letting them settle inside him like small stones on the bottom of a calm river. Writing made him feel clearer, more grounded, more connected to his inner voice. Sometimes, when you learn English, you forget this too. That clarity comes from practice, from patience, from noticing. When you take the time to listen to yourself, to speak slowly, to understand the words in your heart, your English becomes stronger and your mind becomes calmer. Sam closed the notebook and placed it gently on the desk. He felt a small sense of accomplishment. He wasn't perfect. He wasn't fully positive. But he was trying, and that was enough for today. He walked into the kitchen to make lunch. As he cooked, he noticed how his thoughts moved in waves, positive, then negative, then positive again. It felt like learning to ride a bicycle, wobbly at first, full of small mistakes, but gradually becoming smoother. The more he practiced, the more he realized that positive thinking was not something you do once. It was something you do again and again. It was a practice of returning to a better thought, returning to a calmer breath, returning to hope. And every time you return, you grow a little stronger. After lunch, Sam decided to visit the library. He felt that learning something new might help him focus his mind. The library was only a 10-minute walk from his house, and the path led through a quiet street lined with tall trees whose branches created a tunnel of green light above him. As he walked, he listened to the sound of leaves moving in the wind, the soft footsteps of people passing by, the distant hum of a car, and he let himself enjoy the simple rhythm of the world. This mindful attention helped him stay present. When he arrived at the library, he pushed open the heavy wooden door and felt the warm, peaceful air inside. The smell of books always made him feel safe, as if every book was a small world of possibilities waiting to be explored. He walked through the aisles slowly, letting the quiet atmosphere settle around him. He reached the self-improvement section and began reading titles. One book caught his eye, The Power of a Gentle Mind. He pulled it off the shelf and opened it to a random page. The page said, "Positive thinking is not the denial of problems. It is the belief that you can face them with strength, patience, and hope." Sam read the sentence again. It felt true. It felt real. He checked out the book and carried it with him to a small reading corner. He sat down and began reading the first chapter. The author wrote in simple, friendly language, explaining how thoughts influence feelings and how feelings influence actions. Sam felt as if someone was talking directly to him, guiding him gently through his doubts. The book said, "When a negative thought appears, don't push it away. Ask it a question. Is this thought helping me? If the answer is no, offer your mind a new thought." Sam smiled softly. This felt like something he could practice. He read for an hour, and every few minutes, he paused to reflect. He noticed how calm and focused he felt, sitting alone in the quiet library, learning something that could help him become a better version of himself. It made him grateful for the small courage he had shown that morning, the courage to try something new. Learning is a series of small courages, small steps, small choices, small moments when you say, "I will keep going." And this is true for English too. When you listen to long stories like this, when you repeat phrases, when you practice speaking slowly and clearly, you are building your courage. You are training your mind to stay positive, patient, and strong. After finishing a few chapters, Sam closed the book and leaned back in his chair. He let his mind rest, letting the new ideas settle in his thoughts like soft dust floating in a ray of sunlight. He realized that he didn't need to rush. He didn't need to change overnight. He just needed to continue. He stood up, returned the book, and walked out of the library. The sky outside was beginning to change color. The afternoon light was turning warmer, softer, like honey on the horizon. Sam took a deep breath and felt peaceful. He knew the journey would not always be easy. He knew old thoughts would return again and again. But he also knew that he had started something meaningful, and that meaning gave him strength. On his way home, Sam stopped by a small cafe. He ordered a cup of warm tea and sat by the window. People walked by outside, each person lost in their own story, their own hopes, their own worries. Sam wondered how many of them were trying to think positively too. How many were fighting silent battles inside their minds? He realized that everyone carries something: doubt, fear, dreams, memories, and this thought made him feel connected to others. Positive thinking is not only a personal journey, it is also a human journey. When you think kindly about yourself, you think more kindly about others. When you see your own struggles with compassion, you start to see the struggles of others with the same compassion. As he drank his tea, Sam whispered to himself, "I am trying. I am learning. I am growing." The words felt good, like warm water washing over cold hands. He repeated them again, slowly, letting each word sink in. The more he repeated them, the more he believed them. This is the power of gentle affirmation. When you speak kind words to yourself, even in simple English, those words become seeds. And when you repeat them often, those seeds begin to grow roots deep inside your mind. Sam finished his tea and watched the sky grow darker. He felt a quiet pride in himself, not because he had achieved something big, but because he had stayed with his new practice, even when it felt difficult. When he reached home, he sat on his bed and closed his eyes. He reflected on the day, the hope of the morning, the doubt of the afternoon, the learning in the library, the calm in the cafe. And he realized something important. Positive thinking is not a straight line. It is a wave, a rhythm, a dance between light and shadow. There will be days when you feel strong and bright, and days when you feel low and confused. But what matters is not the feeling. What matters is your gentle promise to keep trying, to keep learning, to keep choosing better thoughts. Sam smiled softly in the dim light of his room. He felt grateful for the day, grateful for the lessons, grateful for the small transformation inside him. He whispered, "Tomorrow I will try again." And with that simple promise, he began to drift into a peaceful sleep, ready for the next chapter of his journey, ready for the next lesson life would offer him. The next morning arrived gently, like soft music playing far away, slowly growing louder as the sun rose over the sleepy town, and Sam opened his eyes to a feeling he had not felt in a long time, a feeling of quiet curiosity, a light interest in the day. Almost like a child waking up to a surprise, unsure what will happen but willing to explore, and as he lay there for a moment under his warm blanket, he realized that something inside him had changed overnight, not in a dramatic way, not in a sudden burst of inspiration, but in a soft, steady way, like the glow of morning light entering a dark room, pushing the shadows back just a little more than the day before. He took a slow breath and felt the air move gently in his chest. He could sense his thoughts forming, but now they felt different. They were not rushing, not heavy, not sharp. They were calm. He noticed one thought saying, "Today could be a good day," and instead of doubting it, instead of resisting it, he let the thought stay. He let it sit in his mind like a warm cup in his hands. This was new for him. For many years, his thoughts in the morning were full of worry or disappointment, but now a new pattern was forming, a new path inside his mind, and Sam felt grateful for this small change. Sometimes, positive thinking begins like this, not with a big event, not with a loud realization, but with small moments when your mind feels just a little bit lighter. Sam sat up slowly, stretched his arms toward the ceiling, and listened to the soft quiet of the morning. The house felt peaceful. The world outside was still waking up. He could hear the distant sound of a bird calling from a rooftop and the light hum of a car somewhere far away. These sounds made him smile. He stood up and walked to the kitchen, preparing a simple breakfast. As he made his tea, he thought about the day ahead. Normally, his mind would jump to worries, work, responsibilities, mistakes he might make. But today, something inside him said, "Let's see what happens." It was a simple sentence, but simple sentences can open the heart. He sat at the table, holding the warm cup in his hands, and looked out the window. The sunlight touched the rooftops gently, making everything look golden, and he felt connected to the world in a new way. He felt present. He felt awake. After finishing his tea, Sam decided to take another morning walk. It was becoming a small habit, a new part of his routine, something that helped him feel grounded before the day truly began. He put on his jacket and stepped outside. The town felt a little busier than yesterday. People were walking to work, bicycles moved past slowly, and a soft breeze carried the smell of fresh bread from the bakery nearby. Sam noticed everything, and the act of noticing made his heart feel full. When you practice positive thinking, the world seems to show you more beauty, not because the world changed, but because you did. You begin to see small details that you used to ignore. You begin to appreciate the things that were always there. And this appreciation becomes the foundation of a better life. As he walked, Sam saw an elderly man sitting on a bench near the park. The man looked tired, with soft wrinkles around his eyes, but he also looked peaceful. The man smiled at Sam, and Sam smiled back. It was a simple exchange, a simple moment, but it touched Sam's heart. Normally, he would have walked past without looking, lost in his thoughts. But today, he felt open. He felt connected. He felt alive in a way he had not felt in years. He sat on a nearby bench and watched the leaves move gently in the wind. The sound of the world felt comforting. Nothing was perfect, nothing was easy, but everything felt possible. And possibility is a beautiful feeling, a feeling that brings hope into the heart. As Sam sat there, he remembered something he had read in the library the day before. Your mind becomes your world. Change your mind, and you change the way you see everything. He repeated the sentence quietly to himself. He thought about how true it felt. Yesterday, the same park looked ordinary, maybe even dull. Today, the colors seemed brighter, the air felt fresher, the world felt kinder. The only difference was inside him. And this realization made him feel stronger. If his thoughts could change his experience of the world, then his thoughts were powerful. And if his thoughts were powerful, then he could guide them, shape them, train them, just like someone learning a new language. Positive thinking, like English learning, is a slow and patient practice. It does not grow overnight. It grows with attention, with repetition, with gentle care. After sitting in the park for some time, Sam stood up and continued walking. He walked past small shops, quiet houses, and friendly faces. Eventually, he reached the edge of town where the fields began. He had not walked this far in a long time, but something inside him wanted to keep going. The sky looked wide and open here, as if inviting him to breathe more deeply. He stepped onto a small dirt path that led into the fields. The grass moved softly around his legs as he walked, and the sun felt warm on his face. With every step, his mind felt calmer, more open, more peaceful. This was the kind of peace he had been missing, the kind of peace he didn't realize he needed. He continued down the path until he reached a small hill. He climbed to the top and looked out at the wide landscape. The fields stretched far into the distance, waving gently in the breeze. The sky above looked endless, and for a moment, Sam felt like a small part of something large and beautiful. He sat down on the grass, closed his eyes, and took a long, gentle breath. He let the air fill his lungs slowly. He listened to the wind brushing through the grass. He felt the warmth of the sun on his skin. And in this simple moment, he felt proud of himself, not because he had done something extraordinary, but because he was learning to care for his mind. He was learning to be patient. He was learning to guide his thoughts with kindness. Many people think positive thinking means forcing yourself to be happy all the time, but Sam was learning something different. He was learning that positive thinking means giving yourself space to breathe, space to grow, space to choose hope instead of fear. And that made all the difference. As he sat on the hill, memories began to come to him. He remembered times in his life when he had felt hopeless, lost, or overwhelmed. He remembered the mistakes he made, the disappointments he experienced, the dreams he let go of because he thought they were too difficult. But he also remembered the moments of joy, the laughter with friends, the kindness of strangers, the small successes that made him feel proud. He realized that his mind had been focusing only on the negative memories, forgetting the beautiful ones. Positive thinking was helping him remember the good again. It was helping him see his whole story, not just the dark parts. And as he reflected on this, he felt a soft warmth in his chest. He felt grateful for his journey, even the difficult parts, because they shaped him into who he was. Sam spent a long time on the hill, thinking, breathing, and enjoying the quiet world around him. Eventually, he stood up and began walking back toward town. The sun was higher now, and the day felt bright and full of promise. As he walked, he noticed something interesting. His steps felt lighter, his shoulders felt more relaxed, and his mind felt clearer than it had in weeks. This was not magic. This was the result of one simple choice, the choice to think differently. It was not easy, but it was possible. He knew now that the world often reflects the thoughts you carry inside. If you carry fear, the world seems frightening. If you carry gratitude, the world seems generous. If you carry hope, the world seems open. And now, Sam was choosing hope. When he reached the town again, he decided to stop by a small grocery store to buy some fruit. The shopkeeper greeted him with a friendly smile, and Sam felt himself smiling back more naturally than usual. He realized he was not trying to be positive. He was simply being himself, a version of himself that had been waiting behind his negative thoughts for a long time. As he walked home with a small bag of fruit, he felt a quiet happiness inside him. It was not loud or dramatic. It was gentle, warm, steady. A kind of happiness that grows slowly from the inside, like a plant reaching toward the sunlight. When Sam arrived home, he placed the fruit on the kitchen table and sat down. He took a piece of paper and wrote at the top, "Things I am grateful for today." At first, he only wrote a few items: the sunlight, the quiet morning, the friendly smile of the shopkeeper. But as he continued writing, more things came to mind: the peaceful walk, the fresh air, the new thoughts in his heart, the sense of connection he felt with the world. By the end, he had filled the paper. He looked at the list and felt a soft joy. Gratitude made everything look bigger, brighter, easier. Gratitude reminded him that his life was not empty. It was full of small gifts that he had been too busy or too worried to see before. He placed the gratitude list on his desk and leaned back in his chair. He felt peaceful. He felt proud. He felt hopeful. He realized that this day, the simple act of walking, noticing, breathing, writing had changed him. The world looked different, but only because he looked at it with new eyes. And this thought made him believe that tomorrow could be even better. Positive thinking was not a quick fix. It was a gentle journey, a slow transformation. And Sam was finally walking that path with courage. As the day began to move toward evening, Sam sat by the window and watched the sky change colors again. The golden light slowly softened into orange, then pink, then purple. He rested his head against the wall and breathed calmly. He felt gratitude for the day. He felt hope for tomorrow. And he felt a deep understanding inside him, a quiet truth that he had always known but had forgotten. The world becomes brighter when you do. And with that gentle thought, he smiled softly, ready for whatever tomorrow would bring. The next day did not begin the way Sam expected, and this is something important in every journey, especially a journey of positive thinking, because even when life feels calm and bright, challenges can appear without warning. And sometimes they appear not because the world changed, but because your mind is still learning, still adjusting, still trying to understand this new way of thinking, and that is exactly what happened to Sam when he woke up on the fourth morning of his quiet transformation. He opened his eyes slowly and felt a heaviness in his chest, a heaviness that he could not explain at first. He looked out the window and noticed that the sky was cloudy, not bright like yesterday. The light was dim, the air felt cooler, and the soft hope he had been carrying inside him began to fade a little. He sat up and rubbed his eyes, wondering why he felt so tired, so unsure, so unlike the peaceful version of himself he had been meeting in the past few days. It felt like a small storm had settled inside him while he slept, and now he had to learn how to walk through it. For a moment, Sam felt disappointed. He thought, why do I feel like this again? I was doing so well. I thought I was changing. These thoughts came quickly, like raindrops hitting a window, one after another, noisy and distracting. He took a deep breath, but the heaviness didn't leave. Instead, more negative thoughts appeared. Maybe I can't change, he whispered to himself. Maybe positive thinking is not for me. His voice sounded small, almost fragile. But then, as he sat there in the gray morning light, he remembered something important. Change is not a straight road. It is full of turns, pauses, and quiet storms. He remembered reading that every new habit meets resistance because the old habit fights to stay alive. Suddenly he understood this heaviness was not failure. It was simply part of the process. Still, the feeling was real. The storm inside him was real. He stood up slowly and walked to the kitchen. He made tea, but even the warm cup in his hand did not bring the comfort it usually did. He sat at the table and stared at the tea, not drinking it, simply watching the steam rise and disappear. He felt alone, even though the house was quiet and calm. His mind felt noisy again, full of doubts. And then a deeper thought rose inside him, a thought that surprised him. Maybe this is the moment I learn the most. The idea was soft, almost invisible, but it opened a small space in his heart. Maybe positive thinking wasn't about feeling good every day. Maybe it was about choosing hope even on difficult days. A gentle memory came to him. He remembered his grandmother's voice again, saying, "Sometimes you must walk through the rain to find your courage." When he was a child, he didn't understand it. But today, the meaning felt clear. Courage is not something you feel when everything is easy. Courage is something you practice when things feel heavy. And so, Sam took a small breath and whispered, "I will try." It wasn't a loud promise. It wasn't strong or confident. It was a quiet decision, the kind of decision that shapes a new version of yourself slowly over time. He drank a sip of tea and then opened his notebook, the same notebook he had written in the day before. He turned to a blank page and wrote at the top, "Stormy thoughts." He began writing the thoughts that filled his mind, thoughts of doubt, thoughts of fear, thoughts of disappointment. The words came quickly, almost like the storm inside him was pouring itself onto the page. He wrote everything he felt, not stopping to judge or correct himself. And when he finished, he felt lighter, as if he had taken the storm out of his mind and placed it gently onto the paper. Then he wrote another heading, "Kind Thoughts." Under it, he wrote slowly, carefully, "This feeling will pass. I am allowed to have bad days. I am still learning. I am stronger than I think." The contrast between the two lists surprised him. But it also taught him something. Thoughts are powerful, but they are also choices, and he could choose which thoughts to believe. After writing, Sam put on his jacket and stepped outside. The air was cool, and the sky was a deep gray. He felt the cold breeze brush against his skin, and he breathed it in deeply. Even though the day felt heavy, walking outside reminded him that the world was still here, still moving, still alive. He walked slowly, without a plan, letting his feet guide him. As he walked past the park, he noticed that the elderly man he had seen yesterday was sitting on the same bench. But today, the man looked tired, maybe even sad. Sam hesitated, unsure whether he should approach him. But something inside him, the same gentle courage he was trying to build, pushed him forward. He walked to the man and said softly, "Good morning." The man looked up slowly and gave a small smile. "Morning," he said, his voice gentle but a little shaky. Sam sat down a little distance away, not too close, not too far. "It's a quiet day," Sam said. The man nodded. "Yes," he replied, "some days are like this." The way he said it made Sam feel something inside, a feeling of connection, a feeling that he was not alone in his heavy morning. "Do you ever have days when your mind feels cloudy?" Sam asked shyly. The man looked at him and smiled faintly. "Of course," he said. "Everyone does. Even at my age." He paused for a moment, then added, "But clouds move. They never stay forever." Sam listened to these words carefully, letting them sink into his heart. The truth of them felt warm. The two of them sat quietly for a while. They didn't talk much, but the silence felt comfortable, peaceful. The presence of another person made the storm inside Sam feel smaller, easier to hold. Sometimes positive thinking grows stronger when you share a moment with someone else. The man eventually stood up and said, "Take care, young man." Sam nodded and watched him walk away slowly. He felt grateful for the conversation, even though it was short. He realized that kindness, even from a stranger, can soften the mind. Sam continued walking until he reached the library again. It felt like a safe place, a place where he could learn something new even on days that felt difficult. He entered the quiet building and walked toward the reading corner. He didn't take a book this time. He simply sat and rested, listening to the silence. The calm atmosphere helped him breathe deeper. After a few minutes, he took out his notebook and wrote one sentence: "Bad days do not erase good days." Writing this made him feel stronger. He repeated it softly, letting the words fill the quiet space. As he sat there, a young woman walked into the library. She was carrying a heavy backpack and looked tired. She sat in a chair near Sam and sighed deeply, rubbing her forehead. Sam noticed her stress. For a moment, he wondered if he should say something, but then he remembered how he felt earlier, lonely in his thoughts, quietly struggling, and he decided to speak gently. "Studying?" he asked softly. The woman looked at him with tired eyes and nodded. "Exams," she said. "I'm stressed." Sam smiled softly. "I understand. I have days like that too." The woman returned the smile weakly. "It's hard," she said. "Yes," Sam replied, "but you're trying. That's already something." She looked surprised at his kindness, then nodded slowly as if his words had touched her. It reminded Sam that kindness does not only help others, it also strengthens the one who gives it. After leaving the library, Sam walked home with a clearer mind. He realized that even on a clouded day, positive thinking could still exist. It just looked different. It wasn't bright or energetic. It was quiet, soft, steady. It was choosing patience instead of judgment, calm instead of fear, kindness instead of pressure. When he reached home, he made another cup of tea and sat by the window. The sky was still gray, but now he saw something beautiful in it. Even gray skies have their own softness. Even storms have their own lessons. He opened his notebook again and wrote, "Today I learned that negative feelings are part of the journey. I learned that I can continue even when I feel low. I learned that kindness makes the storm softer." As he read his words, he felt a warm strength inside him. It was not loud, but it was real. He understood that positive thinking was not only for good days. It was especially for days like this. As evening fell, Sam sat quietly and watched the first drops of rain fall outside. The sound of the rain was calming, and he felt a peaceful acceptance inside him. The storm in his mind had not disappeared completely, but it had become softer, quieter, kinder. And he knew that this was enough. He whispered to himself, "I am changing, even on days like this." And with that gentle truth, he closed his eyes and breathed deeply, ready for whatever tomorrow would bring. The next morning arrived with a gentle softness that felt almost like a quiet apology from the world, as if the universe was whispering to Sam, "Yesterday was heavy, but today can be lighter," and when he opened his eyes, he felt a calmness he didn't expect, a calmness that came not from everything being perfect, but from knowing that he had survived a difficult day, that he had stayed with the process, that he had walked through the storm inside him and still found the strength to keep going. And that small truth gave him a strange but comforting feeling of strength. He sat up slowly, stretching his arms, and listened to the quiet hum of the morning. The air felt cool and fresh, and the sky outside his window was slowly becoming brighter. A soft golden light began to spread across the room, touching the walls, the curtains, the simple furniture, and finally his face. He breathed in deeply and thought, "I am here. I am learning. I am growing." These words felt natural now, almost like a soft rhythm inside him. He stood up, walked to the kitchen, and prepared his tea the same way he always did, but today, he noticed something interesting. The calm feeling inside him did not disappear when he began to move. It stayed with him, like a quiet companion. As he poured the hot water into the cup and watched the steam rise, he remembered how different he felt 2 days ago when everything looked bright and easy, and how different he felt yesterday when everything looked heavy and difficult. And he realized something important. Positive thinking was not a straight line upward. It was more like breathing, sometimes deep, sometimes shallow, sometimes easy, sometimes difficult. And that was okay. Growth, he realized, was not about feeling good all the time. It was about learning to guide your mind gently, no matter how you feel. He took his tea outside and sat on the small steps in front of his house. The street was quiet. Only a few people were out, walking slowly, greeting each other softly. The world seemed peaceful. As he watched the morning unfold, he felt a quiet confidence growing inside him, not a loud, proud confidence, but a soft, steady confidence, the kind that comes from understanding yourself a little more deeply. He realized that he had finally learned something he had struggled with for years. He had learned how to stay on his path even when his mind tried to pull him back. He had learned that thoughts were not commands, they were choices. And he had learned that he could choose better ones. As he sat there, a new idea entered his mind, an idea that felt exciting and a little scary at the same time. He wanted to do something new with his life. He wanted to grow not only inside, but also outside. He wanted to make a change, even a small one, that reflected the new way he was learning to think. This idea didn't come from pressure. It didn't come from fear. It came from hope. He asked himself softly, what if I took one small step today? And with that gentle question, a plan began to form slowly in his mind. After finishing his tea, Sam returned inside and stood in front of his bookshelf. There were books about many topics: travel, history, art, languages, simple skills, and personal growth. He looked at them carefully, wondering which one would guide him toward this new idea growing inside him. His eyes stopped on a book about learning new skills. He pulled it out, sat at his desk, and opened it. The first chapter had a simple message: if you want a new life, start with one small change. Sam smiled softly. This felt like a sign, a gentle push from the universe. He closed the book and opened his notebook instead. On a blank page, he wrote, "Small steps I can take." Then he wrote the first step, learn one new skill. But he didn't write anything else. He didn't want to overwhelm himself. He wanted to be patient, gentle, simple. Then he wrote a second sentence, I will choose one skill that makes my life better. He paused, thinking. There were many things he could learn. But one idea rose to the top of his mind, an idea connected to the journey he was already on. He wanted to learn how to speak more confidently. Not only positive thoughts, but positive words. He wanted to express himself better, speak with more clarity, share his ideas, connect with others, and maybe even inspire someone the way he had been inspired. This idea made him feel warm. It felt right. And he immediately understood the connection. Positive thinking was not only something inside his mind, it was also something he wanted to communicate, something he wanted to give to others. He decided that learning to speak with confidence would be his first new skill. And so, he wrote in his notebook, skill, confident speaking. Under that, he wrote, practice speaking slowly and kindly every day. It was simple, but it felt powerful. After writing, Sam stood up, took a deep breath, and began practicing. He stood in front of his mirror and said softly, hello, my name is Sam. I am learning to speak with confidence. At first, he felt shy. His voice sounded small, a little shaky. But he continued. I am learning to think more positively. I am learning to be kind to myself. I am growing every day. With each sentence, his voice grew steadier. His eyes grew brighter. He saw himself not as the person he used to be, full of doubt, but as the person he was becoming, gentle, hopeful, strong. And as he continued speaking, he felt something strange and beautiful. He felt proud of himself. After practicing, Sam felt energized, and he decided to go for a walk, just like the other mornings. He walked through the town, noticing again how everything felt different when his mind was calm. He reached the park and walked toward the same bench where he had seen the elderly man before. The man was there again today, sitting quietly with his hands resting on his cane. When Sam approached, the man smiled warmly. Good morning, he said. Good morning, Sam replied, sitting beside him. You're looking brighter today, the man said gently. Sam nodded. I'm trying my best, he said. Yesterday was difficult, but today feels better. The man looked at him with kind eyes. That is life, he said. The weather inside us changes, just like the weather outside. But if you learn to walk through the rain, the sun feels even warmer. Sam felt a deep gratitude for his words. The man wasn't giving him advice like a teacher. He was speaking like someone who understood the journey, someone who had walked through many storms of his own. They talked for a while. Sam told him how he had been trying to think more positively, how he had been learning to guide his thoughts gently. The man listened with interest and said, "It is a good path. Not easy, but good." Then he added, "And soon, your new thoughts will become habits." Sam felt hopeful hearing this. The idea that positive thinking could become natural, like breathing, filled him with quiet joy. After their conversation, Sam continued walking through the park. He watched children running on the grass, laughing loudly, their faces glowing with joy. He watched families sitting on blankets, enjoying the morning. He watched people walking their dogs, smiling as the dogs pulled them forward. These scenes warmed his heart. They reminded him of something he often forgot. Life can be simple and beautiful if you slow down enough to notice it. As he continued walking, he saw the young woman from the library sitting under a tree, reading a book. She looked more relaxed today, less stressed. Sam smiled and approached her. "Feeling better today?" he asked. She looked up and smiled. "Yes," she said. "Yesterday I was overwhelmed, but your words helped me." Sam felt a soft warmth inside him. "I'm glad," he said. "Sometimes we just need someone to remind us that we're trying our best." She nodded and said, "Thank you again." Sam smiled and continued walking. The simple connection made him feel grateful. He realized that his journey of positive thinking was not only helping him, it was slowly helping others too. He walked all the way to the small hill on the edge of town, the same place where he had sat 2 days ago. He climbed to the top and looked out at the wide landscape. The sun was brighter today, and the wind was gentle. The fields looked soft and golden. The sky was open and blue. Sam took a deep breath and felt his mind expand with the horizon. He felt peaceful, not because everything in his life was perfect, but because he had learned how to carry himself through both calm and storm. He sat on the grass and let his thoughts move gently through his mind. He remembered the first morning when he noticed the sunlight entering his room and decided to think differently. He remembered the walk he took the next day when the world looked brighter. He remembered the storm inside him, the heavy morning, the doubts, the struggle. And he remembered how he had moved through it all. He realized that every step, every thought, every moment had brought him to this hill, to this quiet understanding. A better life begins with a better thought, and a better thought begins with a gentle choice. As he sat there, he whispered to himself, "I am proud of myself." At first, the words felt unusual, almost too big, but then they felt true. He continued, "I am growing every day. I am learning to guide my mind. I am choosing hope. I am becoming someone I can trust." These words were not just sentences. They were declarations, promises, small seeds planted deeply in his heart. Sam stayed on the hill for a long time, letting the sun warm his skin, letting the breeze calm his thoughts, letting the world remind him that life can be beautiful even in its simplicity. When he finally stood up to walk home, he felt like he was walking into a new chapter of his life, not because everything had changed, but because he had changed. He walked with a steady pace, a calm heart, and a clear mind. When he reached home, he wrote one final reflection in his notebook: "Positive thinking is not a destination. It is a practice. A gentle practice of choosing better thoughts, noticing small joys, accepting difficult feelings, and believing that change is possible. A better life begins inside the mind." He closed the notebook slowly, feeling a deep sense of peace. Then he whispered to himself, "Tomorrow, I will continue." And with that promise, soft, gentle, powerful, Sam knew he had finally begun living a new life, one thought at a time. The morning after Sam wrote his final reflection in his notebook arrived with a quiet beauty, the kind of soft, gentle beauty that doesn't shout, doesn't try to impress, but simply exists, like a quiet reminder that every day begins fresh, clean, new. And when Sam woke up, he felt that calmness immediately, as if the universe had placed a soft blanket over his mind during the night. He opened his eyes slowly, listening to the peaceful silence of his room, and for the first time in a long time, he didn't rush to feel anything positive or negative. He simply allowed himself to be present, to exist in the moment, to breathe naturally. This alone felt like progress, because a few weeks ago, his mind would have filled itself with worries the moment he woke up, thoughts about the future, thoughts about the past, thoughts he didn't choose but always followed. Now he felt something different, space. Space to think. Space to choose. Space to begin gently. He got out of bed and stretched his arms, feeling the cool air of the morning on his skin. He walked to the window and looked outside. The sky was clear, pale blue, with soft golden light beginning to rise behind the rooftops. Birds were moving from tree to tree, singing with natural joy. Sam felt grateful for this simple moment. It reminded him that peace does not come from big events or dramatic changes. Peace often comes from small, quiet details that we usually ignore when our minds are heavy. Now he noticed them, and that made him smile softly. He made his tea, as he always did, but today he felt a light excitement inside him, a feeling that today might bring something new, something important. He didn't know what it was, but the feeling stayed with him as he sipped his tea and sat at his small table. He opened his notebook again. On the page where he wrote, "Positive thinking is a practice," he added one more sentence, "And today, I want to practice with courage." He didn't write anything else. He didn't explain it. He simply felt it. After breakfast, Sam prepared to leave the house, thinking he would take his usual morning walk, but just as he reached for the door, he heard his phone ring. The sound surprised him. Not many people called him early in the morning. He looked at the screen and saw the name of his manager from work. Immediately, a small wave of nervousness moved through him. He hadn't spoken with his manager in days, and part of him feared something might be wrong. But instead of letting panic take over, he took a deep breath and answered the call gently. "Sam," his manager said, "I know this is sudden, but we need someone to help with a small presentation this afternoon. It's simple, nothing big. Just explaining a few points to a new team member. Could you do it?" For a moment, Sam froze. A presentation? Speaking in front of someone? His old thoughts rushed in quickly. What if I make a mistake? What if my voice shakes? What if I sound nervous? What if they think I'm not good enough? The questions filled his mind like a fast wind. But before the old fear could take control, he remembered the promise he wrote this morning. "Today, I want to practice with courage." So he said, softly but clearly, "Yes, I can do it." His manager sounded relieved. "Great. Thank you, Sam. I knew I could count on you." When the call ended, Sam sat down slowly, holding the phone in his hands. His heart was beating a little faster, but not from panic. This feeling was different. It was the feeling of stepping into something new, something important. He whispered to himself, "I can do this," even though part of him was still afraid. But courage, he now understood, was not the absence of fear. Courage was choosing to move forward even when fear whispered. He spent the next few hours preparing. He wrote down the points he needed to talk about. He practiced speaking slowly, clearly, gently, just as he had practiced in the mirror the day before. At first, he felt awkward, but the more he practiced, the more comfortable he felt. He realized something powerful. When you prepare with patience, fear loses some of its strength. When you practice, confidence grows quietly. When it was time to go to work, Sam walked with steady steps, though he could feel the nervous energy moving inside him. He accepted it. He didn't fight it. As he entered the office building, he reminded himself, I am learning. I am improving. I am practicing my new skill. These words grounded him. Inside the office, everything looked familiar: the desks, the soft sound of typing, the gentle hum of the air conditioning. But today felt different because Sam was different. He walked to the meeting room where the presentation would take place. His manager smiled when he entered. Thanks again for helping, Sam, he said warmly. You'll do great. Those words helped. They settled inside Sam like a small anchor. A few minutes later, a young new employee entered the room. He looked nervous, shy, and unsure. Something about his expression reminded Sam of himself. This made Sam feel strangely stronger, because he wasn't here to impress anyone. He was here to help someone who was also feeling unsure. The presentation began. At first, Sam's voice felt a little shaky. His hands were slightly cold. But he continued speaking slowly, one sentence at a time. He focused on clarity, not perfection. He focused on being kind, not impressive. And something beautiful happened. Halfway through the presentation, he realized he wasn't afraid anymore. He was simply talking, explaining, helping. And the new employee was listening with focus, even smiling at moments. Sam felt proud. Not loud pride. Quiet pride. When it ended, his manager said, "Great job, Sam." That was very clear and very helpful. Sam felt warmth rising in his chest. "Thank you," he said softly. And he meant it. When he left the meeting room, he felt changed, not in a big dramatic way, but in a real, deep, steady way. He had faced something he used to fear. He had spoken calmly, kindly, clearly. He had succeeded. And even if it had gone badly, the important thing was that he had tried. But the fact that it went well filled him with quiet joy. After work, Sam walked home with a lighter step, almost as if the world itself had become brighter. He arrived home, placed his bag down, and sat at his table. He opened his notebook and wrote a new sentence under his reflections: "Courage grows when I act, not when I wait." He underlined it once. Then he added, "Today I taught myself something new. I can do hard things gently." As the evening sun filled his room with warm light, Sam looked around and realized how far he had come. He wasn't the same person he was a few weeks ago. He wasn't trapped in old thoughts anymore. He had walked through fear. He had spoken with confidence. He had practiced positive thinking not only in quiet moments, but also in real, challenging ones. And as he closed his notebook, he whispered softly, "Tomorrow, I continue again." But this time, the promise felt even stronger. It felt like the beginning of a new chapter, one he was ready to write with courage, kindness, and hope. Thank you so much for joining today's lesson here at JBC English Learning Academy. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment below telling me what you want to learn next. Your support helps the channel grow and helps me create more lessons for you. Take care, keep practicing, and I'll see you in the next class.